Alright guys, so we're taking a look at Learning Target 2.2. So now we're just solving inequalities, okay? So the main thing to understand with solving inequalities is that basically it's the same as solving an equation, okay? There's going to be one difference. And I guess really two differences, okay? The two differences are the way your answers are going to be, okay? The first one, right, is that you're going to have your variable and it's going to be greater than and equal to, less than, or equal to a number. What that means, that's not a negative by the way, let me just erase that. Okay, what that means is that your answer is actually more than just one number. When you have an equation, x equals 5 means that 5 is the answer. X is greater than 5 means that x could be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Okay, so that's the first difference. The second difference is when we multiply or divide by a negative number, okay? When we do that, it's going to take that symbol for inequality and you're going to have to switch it. That has to do with the number line, okay? Because if I think about a number line, let's say I'm up here at 5, negative 5. So if I add or subtract to 5, addition moves me to the right, subtraction moves me to the left. Okay. However, when I multiply or divide by a number, it makes it go really high or really low, doesn't it? But if I multiply or divide by a negative number, okay, not only does it make it go higher or lower, it also flips it clear over to the other side of the number line. Okay. And that's pretty powerful. That's a big jump. And so because of that, we have to adjust our inequality symbol, okay? So if we're looking at these first four, we're looking for mistakes. So number 1, we wanted to get rid of this minus 5 by adding 5. We did it to both sides. Okay, that's correct. 22 plus 20 plus 5 is 27. That's 0, so we're left with 3x. 3x is a little less than, still stays the same. We minus a 3. Okay, now that's where we made our mistake, isn't it? 3 times x means we needed to divide by a positive 3. Okay, so we should have divided by 3, not subtract. Okay, which 27 divided by 3 would have given us 9 instead. Okay, so there's the mistake on that one. Okay, gonna erase all this now. Okay, so number 2, we have a positive 10. We start by subtracting 10 from both sides. Okay, that starts off good. 14 minus 10 is 4. We drop that negative, the 2 and the x down. Okay, that's correct. Symbol the same way. Then we divide by a negative 2. Okay, that is also correct. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. That becomes 1. Now, here's one of our issues. This right here is dividing by a negative 2. So our mistake was we didn't change the inequality direction. Okay, so didn't change inequality direction. Need to do that. So instead we should switch that to be x is less than negative 2. Okay, number 3. We start off by times and by negative 4. Okay, 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. Again, though, we didn't change, okay, the direction of the inequality. So that thing we need to do, same thing as we did over there. Okay, so this should actually be greater than or equal to. But then you eliminated that, leaving us x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides. Okay, negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. And again, this needed to face, so x is greater than that. Okay? So, common mistakes when we multiply or divide by a negative. Those are some mistakes we see a lot of. Okay, number 4. So we start by distribution. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, greater than or equal to negative 15. Okay. Add 10 to both sides. That is also correct. Okay. Negative 15 plus 10 is negative 5. Divide by 5, and we get negative 1. That is correct. Now, here's an issue we make. Sometimes we think, well, we're got a negative here and we're dividing, so we flip the inequality. That one you didn't need to. So should not have flipped or changed direction of inequality. Keep it same. So should have been x is greater than or equal to -1. Okay. Now, you can see that those were our 3 big mistakes, because that typically is the biggest mistake when we're dealing with inequalities. Okay. All right, so let's keep moving on here. So now we've just got a bunch of problems that we're going to do, and we're just going to practice solving inequalities. So let's get started. All right. So we've got -10, n is less than 10. So it's -10 times n, so we need to separate it by dividing by -10. Now look at this number here. Is it negative? It is. So that means our inequality has to change the direction. That becomes 1, so we have n is greater than 10 divided by -10 is -1. And that's all we had to do for that guy. Okay, number 6, b minus 16 is less than or equal to -19. So to get rid of that minus 16, we're adding 16 to both sides. Adding and subtracting doesn't matter, so it stays less than or equal to -19 plus 16 is -3. For number 7, we're dividing by 9. V divided by 9 is less than or equal to -7, so we multiply by 9 on both sides, giving me 1. V. Now, this is -7, but it's the number we're dividing by. That's the one that we're looking at, if it's positive or negative. Another way to think about it is, if we go from a positive to a negative, or a negative to a positive, that's when we flip the inequality. If it stays negative or stays positive, then it's going to be all right. So that'd be what, -63? And we leave it like that. Number 18, we've got a -20, so we're going to add 20 to both sides, giving us x is less than or equal to -23 plus 20, again, is -3. Okay, now we're getting a little more complex, aren't we? So first, we need to add 10 to both sides, right? Because it's 9 times k, then plus a -10. That becomes 0. We're left with 9k. 35 plus 10 is 45. Now we divide by 9, dividing by a positive, so we leave it the same, so 5 is less than k. For number 10, again, we start out by adding 10 on both sides. -22 plus 10 is -12, is less than or equal to. Keep that negative with that 4. Divide by -4 on both sides. See, now we go from a negative divided by a negative gives us a positive. That becomes 1. Divided by a negative, so now that's going to change. And so it's 3 is greater than or equal to x. Okay? All right. So we're just keep on doing these problems. Add 4 to both sides. 6 plus 4 is 10, is greater than 5x. Divide by 5, and 2 is greater than x. So as you can see, we're basically doing the same thing that we've been doing with equations. The only difference is we are now dealing with inequalities. Okay, notice negative stayed negative, so my sign stays sign. Subtract 10. 12 minus 10 is 2. We don't flip the sign when we just minus. X over 3. So times by 3. 6 is less than x. By the way, if you haven't been doing these problems on your own, you should probably be doing them on your own first, trying them, then watching the video. That's really the way you should be doing it. Positive 7, so we subtract 7. 4 minus 7 is -3. Okay, now we see a positive to a negative, and you think, oh, now I've got to change the inequality. But we subtracted 7, so it's not the same, right? That's not taking up one side to the other on the number line, okay? That's crossing the number line, but going a piece at a time, and that's all right for that to happen. So times both sides by 3. 3 times -3 is -9, is greater than or equal to. That becomes 1, which we just drop, and we get -9 is greater than or equal to x. Okay, just keep on going here. Subtract 1. p over 4 is less than or equal to negative 1 times 4. P, because that becomes 1, is less than or equal to negative 4. Number 16, subtract 4 from both sides. Negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9, greater than or equal to v over 2 times by 2. We get negative 18 is greater than or equal to v. Now, what you should be noticing is I've done kind of clusters of similar type of problems. So looking at 13 through 16, this is how we deal with this type of problem. When there's a variable being divided and then a number, in this case all added or subtracted. Okay, same with this clump right here. We've got a number times a variable, then another that needs to be added or subtracted. Okay, these are the basic ones where we've got multiplication, division, subtraction, and really, even though we think that's addition, it's really subtraction, right? Okay, so there's a reason I set them all up like that. Okay, now we've got two problems where we're going to deal with the parentheses so we can distribute, and then two where we're dealing with division, right? Now, number 17 and 18 we can do two different ways, okay? Because the whole thing is being multiplied on the left side, I could start out by dividing by negative 7. That would change my inequality because now I divided by a negative 7. Okay, that would eliminate those, and I'd be left with v minus 6. Add 6, and I'd get v is less than negative 4. Okay, so again, we could start out by division in this case, and that's only because of the way that it's set up, right? That's only the way that it goes. So we've got negative 234 divided by 9, so 26. So positive 26. Again, though, we are dividing by a negative 9, so we got to change the inequality to finish our problem. So we'd get 17 is less than or equal to b. But now, we could again do it a different way. We could start by distribution, go negative 7 times v to get negative 7v, negative 7 times negative 6, positive 42. And then I could solve it this way as well. That would be a negative 2, negative 7v equals a negative 2, right? Oh crap, that was 70, not 40. Why did I write 70? Like, something's not looking right here. So that would actually be a positive 28, wouldn't it? That looks much better. Then divide by negative 7. Because I divided by a negative 7, I get v equals negative 4. Again, negative 234 is greater than or equal to negative 9 times 9, negative 81. Negative 9 times b, minus 9b. Add an 81 to both sides, so I get negative 234 plus 81, so I'd get a negative 153. It's greater than or equal to negative 9. Divide by a negative 9, and because it's a negative 9 I'm dividing by, change the inequality, and we get a positive 17 again. Okay, so on those ones, there's two different ways you could do that. Now, on 19 and 20, there isn't two different ways you can do it. There's really only one way. Because the whole thing's being divided, we times by 16 on both sides. That becomes 1. X plus 3 is greater than 1 times 16 is 16. Minus by 3, and we get x is greater than or equal to 13. For 20, times 3 times 3. That eliminates. B minus 7 is less than negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. But we add a 7 to that, and negative 15 plus 7 is a negative 8. So B is less than negative 8. Okay? All right. Now we got some more difficult problems, but these first ones are just dealing with having those variables on the same side. Okay? And when they're on the same side, we just combine them. So 4a plus 7a is going to give us 11a, greater than or equal to negative 11. Divide by 11, and a is greater than or equal to negative 1. 22, negative 7 plus 4 would be a negative 3x, right? Because it's like we have 7 minus x's, and we have 4 positive x's, right? Negative and a positive cancel out. We're left with 3 negatives. It's greater than or equal to negative 9. Divide by a negative 3. That becomes 1, but we divided by a negative 3, so I change my inequality, and we get a positive 3 for our answer. Okay, 23. 6 and 2n, they're on the same side, so that becomes 8n. They're like terms. We can combine them. Divide by 8, and it's less than or equal to negative 2. Because 16 was negative and 8 wasn't, that's why we don't change the inequality. Negative 6r and 2r is negative 4r is greater than negative 16. Divide by negative 4, that becomes 1. But because we divided by a negative, we change our inequality's direction, and we get a positive 4 for our answer. Okay? Now, these next two, we can see that we've got variables on the opposite side of the equation. Remember, when they're on the opposite side, we have to subtract or add to get them on the same side. So, I subtract a 6v from both sides. That becomes 0, and that becomes 0. And I get 9 is greater than or equal to 1. Okay? So, when you run out of variables, there's two different situations you're going to run into. Okay? You're going to run into ones that work and ones that don't. Like, look at 28. Subtract 7n, that's 0, that's 0. I get 1 is less than 1. Okay, is 1 less than 1? No. Is 9 greater than or equal to 1? Yes. So when it's a no answer that it doesn't work, that means no solution. There is no number for n that will make this work. For 25, when I get a yes, that means there are infinite solutions. Okay? Any number I put in for v will work based on what this looks like. Okay, so sometimes we run into some weird problems like that. Now, 26, I can combine some like terms. Negative 4n and 3n would be negative 1n, right? Positive 6 and positive 3 would be a positive 9, n minus 5. Now, I can add a 1n to both sides. So 1n plus 1n is 2n. That became 0, so we get rid of it. Then I add a 5 to both sides. 2n is greater than 9 plus 5 is 14. Divide by 2. N is greater than 7. Okay, then number 27, we can combine these. 3n and n would give us 4n. It's less than negative 8 minus 4n. So now I want to add the 4n to get it over here. 4n plus 4n is 8n. It's less than negative 8. Divide by 8. And n is less than negative 1. Okay, and we're done with that one. Okay, so we've got these last few problems now, right? And we just have more complexity, but we still treat them exactly the same. So I start off by multiplication here with distribution. So 6 times 4 gives me 24a. 6 times 1 is plus 6, greater than or equal to negative 186. Subtract 6. Divide by 24. (192) divided by 24. Negative 192 is negative 8. Okay. Now number 30. We start with distribution again. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15x. 3 times 4 is 12. Is less than negative 93. Subtract a 12 from both sides, and that would be negative 105. It's less than negative 15x because that became 0. Divide by negative 15. Now I'm dividing by a negative number, so we change that to greater than instead of less than. Now, negative 105 divided by negative 15, I believe that is 7. Yeah, and it would be a positive 7. Okay. Next group. So, again, we distribute. negative 6. Now that negative stays with the 8, so negative 8 times negative 4 would be a positive 32a. Negative 8 times negative 8 would be a positive 64, is less than 5a minus 23. Now we combine some like terms. 64 minus 6 would be 58 plus 32a is less than 5a minus 23. Subtract 5a from both sides, and that would be a 27a positive. Subtract 58. 27a would be less than 81. Then let's scoot it up a bit. Actually, a little too far. 81 divided by 27. And I think that is 3. Yes, it is. So a is less than 3. Okay, number 32. 2 times 5 is 10k. 2 times 8, 16 plus 6, greater than or equal to 40 plus 7k. Combine some like terms. 16 plus 6 would be 22. Subtract a 7k from both sides. Gives us a 3k plus 22 is greater than or equal to 40. Subtract 22. We get 3k is greater than or equal to 18, right? Divide by 3, and k would be greater than or equal to 6. Alright. Alright, last two problems. We are almost there. Distribution first. 5x minus 35 plus 16x plus 2. Combine some like terms. 5 and 16, 21x. Negative 35 and positive 2, negative 33, add 33. Divide by 21, and x equals 4. X, oh, not equals, x is greater than or equal to 4. Okay, last problem. So we distribute this one, right? 8 times a is 8a. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. Greater than 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative 5a is negative, not 15. Wow, can't multiply today apparently. Negative 10a. Add a 10a to both sides. 18a minus 48 is greater than 6 because that became 0. Add a 48. 18a is greater than 54. Divide by 18, and I want to say that is 3, and it is. So a is greater than 3. Alright, there we go, guys. So there's a lot of practice. Hopefully that helped you understand how to solve those types of inequalities, and there we go.